Thank you so much. It's great to see everybody's name at least and to see a lot of faces. Very, very glad to have you here. We thought that we've done a couple of webinars already about the application process and about the curriculum. And we thought it might be helpful to hear a little bit from a couple of our graduate students who are still in the program about their experiences and to also see what some of our course designs are like. So we have a couple of faculty members here. And I think we're just going to jump right in. And if you don't mind, Carrie Trevidic is here and Alexander Ortiz Reyes is here. Cherry Lee is also here, three of our wonderful master students of whom we're inordinately proud, or ordinately proud, I should say, rightfully proud. And let's just jump in. They're going to share a little bit of their experience. And Carrie, you want to go first since you are first on the agenda?
Sure, no problem. So my name's Carrie Trevidic. I'm in my second year, last semester of the program, and my major is interpreting. I live in New Jersey, and I am a full-time high school Spanish teacher, and I have 2 children. So all that to say, here in this program, students come from all backgrounds, all ages, all situations. So there's, I think that's an awesome part of the program. I hadn't been to school, even though I'm in school as a teacher, but a student for a few years. And I think that's typical of a lot of this, well, quite a few of the online students, right? Hadn't been in school for a while. So the first semester was sort of a shock, but I think it works really well, the online program. Well, first of all, thought that it was very easy from application process till now to talk to Joyce. Kudos to Joyce Tolliver, who is always very helpful and friendly if ever any questions. I think the faculty is amazing. I've learned so much. They're experts in their field and have lots of experience and are resourceful, and the online program really allows you to get to know them. They're very helpful and easy to get a hold of. The classes are great. You explore things outside, even though I'm doing interpreting. I'm also participated in translation courses. And yeah, the students are also very easy. If you have a question, you can email them. People are very friendly. And if you need help, and it's easy to communicate. And like I said, again, with the faculty, you form a rapport, I think even more than almost in person, just because you're just right there, right in the screen, and messaging and classes. I can say for myself, maybe it's once a week, 2 to 3 hours. It's not always, sometimes they're asynchronous, but yeah, you can manage it with a job and a family. You know, and yeah, great library. I'm working on my capstone project now. So the library is a great resource. The professors, I mean, I just feel like you can always ask them anything. Just one maybe word of advice. I know Professor Warburton will remember this, but if make sure you have a Windows operating system device, because I bought a new MacBook at the beginning of my program, and it's just not, it's better to have a Windows operating system and a good headset. And that's about it, I guess. Oh, my languages. So my L1 is English, my L2 is Spanish, and my L3 is French. And I don't know, I think that's, if they have any questions, I can take questions, specific questions. So anything else that I missed? I don't know.
I think that's great. And maybe what we could do is hear from all 3 students and then have a little time for questions.
Okay.
Where we go on to hear from a couple of our professors, if that makes sense. Carrie, so thanks so much. And thanks for the kind
no
words.
problem.
Thank you.
I didn't really know where to go with that, but I just figured those were things that points that might be interesting. I was trying to think of, when I was entering the program. So hopefully that helped.
Thank you. Cherry, you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, I'm Cherry, and this is my first year in this program, my second semester, and I'm from Hong Kong, so my language pair will be Chinese and English. By Chinese, it's both Mandarin and Cantonese. And I think my sharing will be about because I actually don't have any related linguistic background in my previous life. Like I don't have a linguistic degree nor any related jobs. So that was the most concerned things for me to enter into this program. But I think everything went great. The faculty is great. Everyone is so nice and willing to help. And also the course are designed to cater to everyone. So I had no really great difficulty in accommodating here. And because all the professors are actually from the field, they have rich experience. So it's really great that you can hear the sharings instead of just doing all the readings, reading all the theories. So it's the most valuable part of this program to me, I think, is hearing these industry experience. And another thing is that I personally is taking the interpretation track, but I also got to try many different things. For the last semester, I like the terminology course, and for this semester, I am very excited to try the audio and visual translation. And I'm also planning to take the localization course or commercial translation in the next 2 semesters maybe. So there are a lot for you to explore here, no matter what your language pair is.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank
Cherry.
you very much. Great. Okay. Alexander, how about you?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Alexander. I'm from the Caribbean. My language pairs are English and Spanish mainly. I'm on the translation for the professions track. I'm in my final semester, second year. And just to sort of go along the same track of what Carrie and Sherry said, yeah, I feel like this program is very diverse, and it's great in the sense that no matter where your interest in translation and languages comes from, there's something for everyone in that regard. I feel like translation has sort of been viewed as, oh, it's used to translate text, and if that's what you're interested in, you will be taught how to do that. But it's also very modern in the sense that you will get to work with technology, audiovisual content. So it's definitely very all-encompassing in that regard when it comes to language services. As Sherry and Carrie said, the professors are very resourceful, and they're always available to clarify anything you might have a concern on, or answer any questions that could arise at any given moment. So definitely don't be afraid to reach out if there's something on your mind that you would like to clarify or seek some guidance on. And yeah, I would say that's about my experience so far. It's been really well experienced, and I'm glad that I've been able to spend time with everyone here.
Thanks so much to all 3 of you. Is there anything that is on the mind of other participants in this webinar that hasn't been covered by the 3 students from the point of view of the student experience? And if you have a question, feel free to put it in chat or to just jump in, since we can't see everybody on the screen at once. Sounds like it was pretty comprehensive. Thanks so much to all three of the students, and I hope you can stay around in case questions come up afterwards to address those at the end too. So we have, I think there are, aside from Melody and me, there are 3 faculty members here with us today: Honeda Ahyad, Patricia Phillips, and Kara Warburton. And we're going to hear a little bit from Dr. Ahyad and Dr. Phillips about what their courses look like from their point of view. Let's see, Honeda, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. It's really nice to meet all of you. Well, this is our normal life now, but I think it works well. Thank you for joining us. Let me share my screen with you. I teach Arabic English translation. It's one of the specialized courses, and I will be teaching a new course. Hopefully I get it up and running soon. It's sociolinguistics in translation. And let me share my screen with you before I say anything. Okay. All right. So the course that I teach is Arabic English translation, and it's really hands-on. We do everything together. When the pandemic started, I was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? It's just too difficult. It is very isolating. I am not working with my students. I can't see their faces. Some of them have very unstable internet connection. You know, their screens are turned off, but we need to deal with that. And on top of that, we don't have boards to write on. Having boards was like the biggest advantage ever. Each student will like write on a blackboard, and we will work together, looking like comparing each other's translation. But I found out that Zoom does a better job doing that. It just have everything. It puts all the information together. So let me show you this. In the Arabic English translation, there is this theory and practice. We focus on practice. To make things interesting, we keep we bring topics that are very relevant. One of the topics that was the Bernese gloves. It's here. We have a tweet. I shared it with the students. Our lesson was about intralingual translation versus interlingual translation. And since this is an Arabic English translation, you would think that you would immediately start translating from Arabic to English, but that's not true. There is this intermediate stage where you gotta translate from Arabic to Arabic. So this is what translation is. So I showed my student the tweet, and I asked them to translate it into Modern Standard Arabic, and they did. So let me share. Of course, many of you won't be, it's in Arabic, but here are the translations that my student gave me. The tweet itself has the word tweet in English. It has the word mention. Yeah, there are English words, but they are borrowed into Arabic, and we use them as tweet and mention. So when the students faced that problem, they didn't transliterate retweet and mention. They did translate them into if we're talking from a dialect to dialect, they ended up not knowing how to translate retweet into Modern Standard Arabic. It's a coined word. It's not real. It does not belong to Modern Standard Arabic. So they ended up finding some equivalent, like I want to repost, instead of retweet. They did that, translating from this dialect of Arabic into modern standard Arabic. When I asked them to translate that into English, guess what they did? Just look at the final words, the final phrases. I want to repost it, the first student says. I want to republish it, the second student says. The third student says, I want to republish it. The fourth student says, I want to repost it. All of them were there, and all of them knew, they all spoke Arabic. All of them knew that the original tweet had the word retweet in it. But I asked them this question, why didn't you translate republish, when it was in Arabic, it was republish. Why didn't you translate it back to English, retweet? And it was like a big aha moment for all of them. My God, whoa. So this is a real example. All of them just took the intermediate translation, which was modern standard Arabic, and they were faithful to it. They were very faithful, and they ignored their audience. So this is an example of some hands-on activities that we do in our classes. We work extremely closely together. We do the translations at the same time. We compare translations. We edit translations together. So I think we have, in our classes, we do have this big sense of community where people work together at the same time. There is no room for embarrassment. There is no room for judgment. We work together. We improve each other's work. And yes, that's it. I hope to be, I hope I will see some of you in one of my classes. That was my presentation. Thank you. Shukran in Arabic.
Thank you, Honeda.
Thanks so much. So cool. Again, let's wait and have questions after both presentations, if that works, and then we can have a more sort of interactive part. Patricia, would you like to jump in and show us about your course? Can't hear you.
Let me just share my screen. Make sure I'm on the right one. Okay. Should I just admit this person, Melody? Somebody want to come in? I'm getting these messages that somebody's in the waiting room. Sorry, my mouse went over that and I admitted her. Okay. It may be because I'm the last person to have been given co-host status, so I'm getting all the admit so-and-so in the waiting room. So that's
no worries,
fine.
I can take care of that.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, great. So I wanted to talk a little bit about 3 different courses I teach. So my name is Patricia Phillips Fatoma. I am a French to English translator. And I teach a variety of courses in this program. One course is called Translation for the Professions. And in that course, we look at medical, scientific, and legal translation. Sometimes I teach the commercial and technical translation. And I also teach a course in writing, and I teach one of our sort of finishing courses called Translation Methods, Reflective Practice, Translation and Interpreting Methods, a Reflective Practice, which hopefully draws together at the end of your tenure here, hopefully draws together a lot of concepts that you have learned throughout the program. So what I want to start showing you today is a course that is right now, the number is TRST 580, it's a special topics, but it's actually writing for translators. So in this course, what we focus on, because we have a lot of students in our program who speak different languages, we're not a, we don't actually say to people, well, you can't come here because we don't handle that language. We try to handle all languages because we feel like what we do actually is we teach translation. We're not a language teaching program. So there's a lot to learn from the point of view of translation. So this course is a course in which we explore many, many different kinds of discourses in English, the rules and regulations that govern those discourses, standards that apply to them, the conventions. And what we do during that semester is students select a text to translate. And for this kind of project, I insist on the text being something that's been published so that I know it's been through an editing process, it's been vetted, and it's a pretty well written text. And there's a lot of translation to do in that course because generally I ask people to do about 10,000 words during the course of the semester. So there's just all kinds of different examples and types of discourses that we explore, but I just want to go down here to the final project where I just kind of break it down just to show you how we work in the course over the course of a semester. So you have selected a text to translate, which is about 10,000 words. And what you're going to do is you're going to have a rough draft of the first portion. I'm going to give you feedback. You're going to have a rough draft of the second portion, feedback. So it's a lot of handing in drafts, feedback, and then you have a first full draft, second full draft, and then a final draft. So you spend an entire semester where you're handing in your text, and I am reading it, and we are sharing with each other. You're sharing with me some of the issues you're having, and I'm sharing with you some of the patterns I'm seeing in your choices, and trying to give you feedback and get you on a path to making appropriate stylistic choices for this kind of discourse. Now, the other part of that course is getting students into a daily practice. And so what I do is I start the semester where you have to keep a journal every day where you time yourself doing a translation of anything with no resources. And so you have to just pick a text, any text. That's where you have a lot of freedom. Where you don't have freedom is you cannot look at Google, you cannot look at a dictionary, you cannot look at your phone, except to use your phone as a timer. That's okay. But the rest, you can't. So it's about learning how to read a text. In other words, this is a reading exercise, and exploring certain kinds of exercises that you could do every day, even for 5 or 10 minutes, just to improve certain issues. So some people come in and realize that they actually need to improve their reading skills. Some people come in, they realize they need to improve their writing skills. I think we all need to improve reading and writing skills at any age, but what we explore are different techniques for practices. I call these daily practices that you can do every day to basically maybe solve problems. Maybe there's weaknesses in your background. Maybe there's areas where you haven't had enough practice. Maybe you have, sometimes you have writer's block. So we explore a lot of techniques and practices that help you move forward. So after a month, what I ask you to do is to come up with your own daily practice, and then to engage in that at the end, until the end of the semester. So what we do is we explore practices that you do every day, but for a short time. So it's always something that's manageable. It's not as if you have to devote an hour a day to something. What I'm saying is, let's do this practice for 5 minutes a day. Let's do this practice for 10 minutes a day. And then after a month, look back and tell us what effect you think that had on you as a writer, as a translator, as a thinker. Okay. Let me just go to my course, Translation Studies 500, which is called Translation and Interpretation, a Reflective Practice. And this is I don't have the time to go into everything we do in this course, but this is really a reflection on the profession, on being a professional, and how to insert yourself into this profession, and how to bring to the profession your academic background and your ability to reflect deeply on what you do, whether you're an interpreter or a translator. But one of the things we explore here in this course is the use of back translation in its many forms. And so one of the assignments is for people to to find their some version. You can see here I have the first chapter of several Harry Potter books in many languages. I also have the English language source. That's most often it's the UK source. And without looking at the original, and I know many people were Harry Potter fans when they were younger, so they know the book, but it doesn't matter. That's okay. That's probably a little bit in the past. Go to the translation and back translate it. Okay, so then you work on that, and we talk about the techniques and what guides you when you're doing a back translation, what kinds of thought processes and what kinds of strategies apply when you're doing a back translation, as opposed to doing, say, a translation an original translation, and let's just say that original translation that you're doing is for publication. We explore why and how you might want to engage in a back translation just as a practice, and as a way to better analyze translations and learn from them, learn from what other translators do. So this is just one of the parts of this course where you do a back translation of the Harry Potter text, and then I give you feedback and we talk about it, and then we bring together a lot of different phenomena that we study as a class in that after that assignment is done. Now, this is kind of a warm-up for the final project. The final project is you select a text that's been translated from English and also published and all of those good things. And then you also back translate it, and then you produce the evaluation of a translation. So that's part of this class as well. So just lots of things that we do in this program to give you the means not just to learn new things, but to continue to learn. So throughout your career, you have to continue to learn, and you can learn from. There's lots of techniques that you can develop to keep learning on your own. The next course I'm going to show, and this is my last one, is the Translation for the Professions. This is set up a little differently because we really do hit on very specific areas. So we look at medicine, and we look at science, and we look at legal. And this is set up in really discrete modules. And I saw in the chat that somebody was asking if there's technology or software that you have to purchase. And I just want to say the answer to that is no, because we provide a lot of the CAT tools that you will be using. Now for this course in 406, because in a professional translation setting, you would be using a CAT tool, I ask you to use a CAT tool even if you haven't taken the CAT tool course. So of course I set up a lot of videos to teach you how exactly to use the CAT tool in the way that I want you to use it. So for example, when you hand in my assignments for this course, there will be a certain number of deliverables. One will be a bilingual review file. One will be a small term base. One will be a translation memory. You will learn what those mean when you get in this program. You will learn what they mean very quickly, and they won't be like foreign words to you anymore. But I provide videos to show you exactly what tasks I want you to do. So by the time you're done my course, you have learned at least one CAT tool. Okay, so we've got every week, we've got an overview, we've got readings and lessons, and I have online lectures. And then we have every week assignments. And for this class, the online section of this class, I meet with the students. I meet with every student once every 2 weeks. So throughout the semester, you'll have, you know, anywhere from 6 to 7 meetings, direct meetings with me about your work. And if you don't have any questions for that meeting, and it's not a meeting you have to prepare, by the way. It's not like, oh, she's telling me to get this ready. No, no. If you have questions, we can deal with them. But if not, then what I'd like to do is I'd like to go over my feedback on your assignments, and we can talk. We just talk about that. So, so for that course, for the final project, it's a translation portfolio that you produce of 2 different kinds of discourses. So I think I'll stop there. I don't want to take up too much time. Thanks everybody for paying attention, and thanks for attending the seminar.
Thank you, Patricia. And
yeah,
go ahead, Joyce, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, just saying thank you. I was saying thank you before, but I was muted. I wanted to add a little bit. There's some great questions in the chat. I wanted to expand a little bit on some of them about library materials. In pre-pandemic times, the library would send print materials to our online students through the US mail. So that's a little bit iffier now because of COVID reasons. But if you're an online student or would like to be, that is the default. And of course, then you have to return them yourself, but you can actually have, if they're not available online, you can have print materials that the library will send to you at no cost. And also, we have one dedicated librarian. That is, all of the librarians are dedicated, but I mean that there is one librarian who just does translation studies and one other thing. He's fantastic. And the director of the Languages and Literatures Library is also very knowledgeable, very, very helpful and available. So they are available for individual consultations to all of our students online or campus. So that's one of the reasons we really brag about our library. It is, I think, number 3 of the public libraries in the country in terms of the holdings. And so that would be, of course, behind the Library of Congress. And there's one other university library that has a larger holding than we do, and I can't remember which one it is, but it's an enormous library. It's a fantastic collection, and it is all available to you to the extent that we can make it available during the pandemic time. So a little bit about that. I also wanted to say a little bit about our multilingual approach, and just to clarify, the core faculty have, I think, 6 or 7 languages among us that we can provide. And if we get an inquiry from an applicant who would like to work on a language that we don't have in our repertoire, then what we do is we reach out to our colleagues who are in the School of Literatures, Cultures, and Linguistics to see if there's a colleague within the school who has that language who would be available to check work final papers, for example, to be available to the professors for consultations. And we do that regularly. We most recently were able to bring in somebody to work on Hindi, for example. We have somebody who's willing to work on Yiddish with us, for example. But it depends on the availability of colleagues in the school. So there have been times when somebody wanted to work on a language and we just couldn't find anybody. There was a student who wanted to work on Jamaican Creole a few years ago, and we couldn't support that just because there wasn't a colleague who was able to help with that within the school. So just to clarify those 2 points, I think we've talked a lot, as we usually do because we're professors, but please ask questions, put them in chat, just jump in. What else would you like to know? Average class size. Okay, good. Let's let our professors talk about that.
Well, I don't know how to say average, but our class size is usually, can you hear? Okay, sorry. The class sizes usually for me in my classes hover around 10. I have an exception this semester with one class where I have 15. But generally speaking, my classes have anywhere from 8 to 13 students.
Some classes are a lot smaller. You know, we will let a class go that has 4 or 5 students in it usually, but I think typically the smallest you might have would be about 6, and the biggest might be around, in a single class, might be around 15. And then Honeda, a question for you, Arabic dialects other than modern standard.
Yes, we do cover a number of dialects. Dialects of the Levant, Egyptian, the Gulf countries. We have some like activities, but it's not like the main focus of the course. No, but we do, look at different dialects of Arabic. And when it comes to specialized courses like mine, Arabic English translation, the class size is like pretty small, 4 to 6 students, which is awesome. We work very closely together, and I really like small size classes, and I think it's one of the best things about our program. The number of students is not like overwhelming. You have 25 students in an interpreting class or 30 students. So I think it's an advantage.
So Lou has a great question about technology requirements. Kara, do you want to take that one?
Sure. I teach terminology, which is one of the core courses of the program. And I also teach computer-assisted translation tools and localization, software localization. So, and we use a variety of different software, and we have licenses for all the software for all students. So students need to pay a fee for any software we use in my classes, at least. I think it's the same across the program. So you have the benefit of being exposed to a number of different tools. We use a variety of different CAT tools, so you get experience with different computer-assisted translation tools. Professor Phillips already mentioned that she uses MemoQ in her course, and to that I add in my course Trados, MemSource, and WordFast. But we also learn technologies outside of traditional CAT tools, such as for term extraction, concordancing, and even software development platforms like that I introduced in the localization course, such as Android Studio or GitHub. So we really do explore technology as quite deeply, I would say. And you know, this semester, for example, we're using Sketch Engine for the first time for one of our capstone students, which is a fantastic resource for research. And we are doing some experiments. Alex on the class, the meeting right now is doing some experimentation with machine translation, comparing the results of machine translation without linguistic resources to machine translation with the addition of linguistic resources such as translation memories and terminology databases. So we really do push the technology envelope as far as we can, and that makes it a positive experience for students without going too far. But I think by the time you end this program, if you do take the CAT Tools course, you will have been exposed to, as I said, 3 or 4 different CAT tools, and with terminology and localization going even beyond that to a wider range of technology that supports translators and even interpreters as well.
Could I just say something? Just to follow up on what Kara Warburton just said. For those of you who are interested in being freelance translators, and to some extent, I'm not sure how much this applies to the interpreting profession, but I'm sure that there's a lot of technology that if it doesn't now, it will. There's certainly some. If you want to be a freelance translator there in the United States or anywhere today, there's no way that you can survive and make money without being pretty strong in more than one CAT tool. So you would probably want to know the standard one. You would probably want to know several of the competitors. And the reality is that for translation companies that are looking to contract with freelancers, they will not be interested in seeing what you can do if you don't know how to use CAT tools. So it's pretty important to survive in the profession today, to be not only to know CAT tools, but to have a lot of basic knowledge about how to manage your computer operating system and technology generally.
So lots of different kinds of questions, which is really great. So everybody is interested in the cost of the program, I'm sure, if they don't already have that information. Melody, thank you so much for just putting the document right up there. It includes everything. I wanted to say a little bit about that. The costs for the online program are by credit hour. So there's straightforward costs. There are no fees for additional campus fees for services, because online students typically do not take advantage of those services. The service fees cover things like access to the health center or free bus service. And if you're across the country, you won't be using those. And so they are not charged those fees. Campus students are charged those fees. The campus tuition is set by the registrar, by the university in general, and it's just based on whatever the registrar says. And so you'll see those numbers for the current year in what Melody put up there. They might go up a teeny bit next year, but they won't go up very much at all for campus. Merit scholarships, how do they work? A merit scholarship means that if you're offered a merit scholarship, it means that we consider that your application is such that you are an outstanding applicant, and we have every confidence that you will complete the program in a stellar way. So obviously not everybody is offered a merit scholarship. The way they work is that we simply make a deposit to the student account so that the amount of tuition that is billed is less. It's very straightforward. It is not based on financial aid. We are not equipped to look at financial aid statements, but there is an Office of Financial Aid in the university, which will help you to figure out how to finance the cost of the program. And we're always happy to send those links. Cody, I'm going to see if I can, if a class contained 4 students intending to work in Vietnamese, 6 in Inuit, how the students, oh yeah, this is a wonderful question. Thank you so much, Cody. What if the professor doesn't speak Vietnamese or Inuit? And wow, yeah, I love this question. And if you'll let me expand on it a little bit, then also our professors can jump in and tell how they handle the day-to-day. So in general, as Dr. Phillips said before, our focus is on teaching, translation, and interpreting. It's not based on languages, although we do offer a few language-specific courses. I teach Spanish English, we offer German English, Dr. Ayad teaches Arabic English, and I think there's also some French English courses available to campus students. However, by and large, no, what we're looking at is the skills and the theory for the type of translation or interpreting or terminology that you're studying. And so each student works within their own language pair. So there's a lot more to say about that. The experts here are the professors and the students about their experiences. But in general, what I'll say is that usually we have let me say it differently. Usually the course content is not so focused on particular problems of a particular language pair that the professor needs to be super well versed in an individual language pair, right? So the focus is on the general skills and on the theory. When those things arise, that's when we'll call on the expertise of our colleagues if we don't have that language pair already in our own repertoires. And now I think I'm going to step back and, maybe students and faculty can jump in about how they handle that multilingual approach. Kara, go ahead.
Okay, so in my case, I teach courses that are not focused on language per se, specific languages. So the terminology course, we learn the basic principles of managing terminology databases and importing and exporting terminology so that it can be used in other tools like CAT tools or in the interpreter's booth. So these are principles that technology based, and understanding the principles of concept-based management instead of lexical approach. So it's really, as Professor Phillips mentioned about theory, these are fundamental principles that apply across languages that you really have to master over and above specific linguistic strategies and properties of particular languages, for that matter. The same goes for CAT tools. It's technology based. It's learning the technology. And for the localization course, it's also technology based, but also understanding the types of styles and registers and genres that are involved in software localization. And then I also sometimes teach the technical and commercial translation, and there we get into studying different registers, genres, and text types, and we do share amongst each other. Some students are working on the same language, for example, Spanish, so we tend to discuss the Spanish stylistic choices or grammatical choices within the, and to some extent they can be translated or transferred over to other Latin-based languages like French or Portuguese, for that matter. So we learn a lot from each other. And then there are also cases where we do want to, in my courses as well, we do want to get some linguistic feedback. And if I can't provide it directly, as Professor Tolliver said, I do seek the input of or the feedback from other members of our faculty or extended faculty outside of our department. Just today, for example, I requested some feedback on 2 Chinese translations, and there's another one, and a Japanese one. So we do provide the opportunity for our students to learn both the fundamental, theoretical, and practical and technical things they need to know, but also to get some specific feedback on their actual translations, where appropriate and where. So that's how it works for my classes, anyways.
I can speak regarding interpreting, since Professor Pagura is not here, if you'd like me to. We have students who speak Japanese, right, who are working with a language for Japanese, Spanish, Portuguese, Russian. I also do French. So what happens is we work into English, or they interpret into English, for example, in simultaneous, and then we're relaying and recording into our, back into our second or third language. And it's all about what makes sense, right? And we're learning interpreting techniques, and it has to make sense. But even if we can't understand the Russian or the Japanese, whatever you're saying to us as listeners, and is it making sense in English? And then are we able to relay it into our back? So we do these sort of loops. But I know Professor Pagura, like for his finals, if you're doing it into Vietnamese or into another language that he doesn't speak, like Dr. Warburton said, he'll send it to another faculty and they'll listen to it. But it is really so much about making sense of what you're saying, right? So, and then we record into our second and third language, and then we go back and listen to it on our own and work on it. But I mean, there's so many different, community interpreting, there's, it's note-taking and things like that come into play, but it's really about making sense, and it's not just a word for word or a linguistic activity. So I think that's important to say.
I could say something too. I'll try to be quick because I know we're running out of time. But if you take that question, then what I want to emphasize is that there's lots and lots of models for work.
Oh, come on.
So for example, for technical translation, if you want to be a technical translator and you want to work professionally as a technical translator, you have to understand technical language. You have to understand technical English, for example. You have to understand where that comes from. And then, because then you have to be able to analyze the technical variant of your other language, let's just say Arabic or Spanish, and ask the question, does technical Spanish exist? Does technical Arabic exist, etc.? And try to go and understand the conventions that apply to that particular type of, basically you could call it a sub-language to some extent. So you have to learn the basics of technical English, and then you have to practice translating. So what I do is I get texts in many different languages, and I know the content of the text, and I know not just the content, but I understand the concepts in the text if it's a technical or scientific text. And so then the students are working pretty much on the same, they're not necessarily working on the same document, but they're often working on documents that are talking about or discussing where the content is the same topic. And so then I have them practice translating a technical text and applying the concepts of technical English, so that you learn how to discern between different types of discourses and actually apply the rules and regulations of those different discourses when you're translating that type of document.
Okay. Cherry or Alex, do you want to add anything to that based on your experiences?
Sure.
I can go ahead.
Yeah, just to be like quick and brief. Yes, just to like wrap up what the professors said, you definitely will be taught how to like approach translation But that is not to say, as the professors like stated very clearly, that you will not be receiving like feedback on your actual management of the languages in which you worked. Like the language pair that you worked on a particular document, you will receive that feedback. If the professor handles that language pair, you will receive it from them directly, most probably. But if not, they will always like, if it's like available within the university system, they will find someone who can provide you that feedback so you can improve your translation going forward. And in my experience, I've been in classrooms where there's been a mix of Spanish, French, Japanese, Arabic, and communication has never been a problem. It's always worked out fine.
Thanks. Thank you, Alex. Cherry, how about you?
Can I just share on some of from the interpretation course from Professor Pagura? Like Carrie said, we have all kinds of languages in one class, like Japanese. I do Chinese, and we have Arabic and Russian. So there are many different practices that is not like language specific that we do during the class. Like when we do shadowing, we can do shadowing in English, like it's intralingual. And when we do like interlingual thing, when I do Chinese to English, we not only focus on like very language specific things, instead, because no one understands Chinese style, but I will always be asked how I approach the interpretation. Like I have to reflect how I interpret that word when there is no equivalent in Chinese. So you have to work your way around. And also in the CAT tool course, I'm still taking it now, but I know that there will be another student reviewing my work in Chinese. So if you have another classmate that have the same language pair as yours, then you will have the opportunity to also learn how to review others' work. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Cherry, for adding that piece about peer review, and Alexander, your experience. Very, very helpful to hear from all of you. And Carrie, I think a question that comes up so often is about interpreting. Exactly. So that was really, really helpful too. I think we have 1 minute left. Is there any last minute question? Just shout it out if you can, or put a quick question in the chat if that will work for you.
Can anyone hear me?
Yep. Yes.
I just want to say a quick shout out to Melody, who's been very helpful in me doing the application process. Like one of the best academic advisors I've ever encountered. So I'm pretty much almost done completing the application. Just was curious as far as, I don't have a background in translation, and it's been a while since I graduated in 2 of my languages. I've been talking to Melody about Portuguese. That's another ball game because I got a minor, not a major, but I certainly want to know if you have a lot of students in there that kind of come from my background where they don't have that experience in translation, but they want to gain it. And then I also want to know when the application deadline hits, when you plan to do like the interviews, and because I pretty much will probably submit my application. I'm just waiting on some letters of recommendation, probably before the 1st. So hopefully that wasn't too much questions for you.
I'm going to answer your question about students with a background similar to you. Yes, 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 absolutely, yes. We have students from a great variety of backgrounds. And I really love working with the students in this program, partly because there's such a wide gamut of different backgrounds. A lot of our students are people who finished the BA a really long time ago. a lot of students are have been called non-traditional students. The non-traditional students in our program are traditional. So that's
Okay.
totally normal. And Melody, you're probably better able to talk to everybody about the application process and when we do interviews and all that.
Yeah, so sorry, I got a phone call here. Just for the application, like Alicia said, whenever you have a problem for the application, so just send me an email. But I think it's better for me to show everyone about the application website here, since we made some change, and I have received like similar questions from time to time. So I'm going to share the screen. Just wait a second.
Melody knows.
Okay. So can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
So for application, we would recommend go to our website because we have some very program specific requirement. So go to our website here, you can come to admission and here's application instructions. And if you click on here, this one will direct you to the graduate college applications process website. But it's better to have a quick look of the program requirements, like what is required for the application, like normally letters of recommendation, CV or transcripts. And the most important one is about the statement of purpose. So because the one you will see from the graduate college website, so they're asking for personal statement, which is for like every applicant from different major backgrounds. But for us, because it's about translation, so we would like to know your proficiency at least in 2 languages, right? So here, just click over here. We made some changes for the statement of purpose. So please click over here and you will be directed to the web form, which is about a statement of purpose specifically for our program. So the beginning, the first few questions are very general personal information, but the most important part is about question number 9, so which you will be asked to demonstrate on your personal academic background in your first language. And the second question, number 10, which is you will be required to ask, to speak a little bit about your experience in the second language. So that's where we want to see your written proficiency in your language pair. So this is very different from the general personal statement. But when you are at the the graduate college website, application website, you can just, because that's a required step, you have to submit something and then you can move on to the next step. So you can just upload 1 sentence or something to see, please refer to my statement of purpose at the program website that we work to. So that's the kind of application, something pops up very often, like how to deal with the statement of purpose. So just want to remind everyone, if you are still in the process of application, so please go to our website and check the requirements first and then continue with your application. Yeah, thanks.
And what about the interviews? Did you answer that and I missed it? As far as when you...
Oh, so the interview, so that should be basically, that's the second step. Once you finish your application, gather all the documents, submit your application, the admission committee will view your package. And then if you meet all the minimum requirements, then we'll move on to the next step. So we will get in contact with you to set up like a very short mini conversation, about 15 minutes. So 2 faculty members will be there, 1 in English and 1 in your other language, to ask you a few questions. So that would be the next step.
Okay, thanks.
No worries.
Okay.
Hope I have addressed the questions for application. Any further questions for admission requirements or application process?
Oh, I don't have a question about the application process. I was just have a question about the statutory tuition waiver. I was looking through the student handbook and I saw that it mentioned that since this is a self-supporting program, the statutory tuition waiver could apply, but I didn't know where to go for more information. I've read the entire handbook and I haven't been able to find it.
Oh, do you have any idea?
Could you send it, could you send me the link and
Yes.
I'll look at what you're looking at.
Yes,
So-
it's on page 105. I'll send it right here.
Yeah, just send it so I can see what you're referring to. In general, while you're getting that up there, oh gee, that was so quick, thank you. Grad handbook. I'm gonna look at this and correspond with you directly about that, if that's okay. But in general, we cannot waive tuition. We cannot waive
Yes.
tuition for our program because it's self-supporting. That
Yes.
is unusual in the university. Most programs at the master's level do waive tuition and provide assistantships. We are an exception and we're not able to do that. So there is a possibility for us to reduce the tuition of an individual student, and that's what we do through the merit scholarships. And you know, that's as much as we can do. So I hope that's helpful information.
Can I ask a question about the scholarships?
About, sorry?
The scholarships. I'm actually gonna work with a program, a rehab program that, you know, if they deem it necessary for me to get a master's and I prove my case and they could pay for it. But I did try to see if the merit scholarships, how competitive they are and if there's grants available for the master's or if it's just the scholarships.
Just the scholarships. Yeah.
Okay, so how competitive and what you base the scholarships on, because I know you can get anywhere between 5,000 to 10,000, and I don't know how you determine who gets it and how much. And
yeah, so the amount varies. There's not a standard amount. It varies on how many students are in the program in a given year, what our budget looks like in a given year, and the quality of the students in a given year. So it's not the case that there's a standard amount and that it's a binary yes or no, right? So there might be varying amounts also of scholarships based on what we're seeing in the application. In general, criteria have to do, the overarching criterion is strong evidence of likelihood to not just complete the program, but to do very well in the program.
I see.
So there, you know, there are students who meet the minimum requirements who we think will succeed. We would not admit anybody who has evidence in the file of having problems, serious problems in the program. That student we just wouldn't admit. So there's sort of a whole gamut or continuum ranging from doesn't meet the minimum requirements set by the university. We have no choice. We can't admit that student, all the way up to this student will go very far in the profession, let's say, right? Or this student has already an incredibly impressive record. And we think that the student would do so well in our program that they would set a model for other students. So, you know, and so most people are somewhere in between. And students who get merit fellowships have typically no question about their academic record and about the overall set of evidence that their file shows us. They are the students that we feel this is definitely a student who's probably going to be in the program, get mostly A's, and do very, very well. And so these are recruitment fellowships, right? I mean, to be honest, these are students that we want to have in the program because we think that we can support them best. It's always a judgment call, of course, based on a fairly limited amount of information that we have. But, and, you know, and so it is, since it's a judgment call, you know, we discuss these decisions among the whole group. All of the faculty in the program participate in the decisions about who to admit and who should be offered a fellowship. And I think in most cases, our judgment is pretty good.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. And I'm glad you guys could see my face now. I apologize about that.
Great. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I think also
One more question in the chat box.
it has been covered, right?
Sorry, Melody?
I mean, Osama has got a question, but I think it has been covered. It's a tuition related question.
Right. Does it cover the full tuition along with other costs? We are not allowed to do that. So waiving tuition means that the student pays no tuition. Our program is not allowed to offer that degree of scholarship. So the answer is no, we can't ever offer a scholarship that would cover all of the tuition. What we can do for very promising students is to offer what we think of as a very substantial discount on the tuition. And then we, especially Melody, will work with the student in order to find resources for other financial aid that the program itself cannot offer.
Okay.
This is not your last chance. You know where to find us. If you write, I think everybody has the contact information, but just in case, if you just write to translation@illinois.edu, that comes to Melody and it comes to me. It comes to both of us. So you can be sure to reach us. Are you going to put it up on the screen?
Yeah,
It's at the bottom of the screen. Exactly. And the phone number that you see there, it goes right to Melody.
Mm-hmm.
Is around her laptop most of the day. I'm not, because I also teach classes and do research. So I'm not right in front of the laptop all the time, but Melody is more likely to be able to pick up the phone. So that's it for today. As I say, the deadline, March 1st deadline is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't applied and you would like to apply, if you have any problems at all in the application process, we're here to help you. Please do not think that if you can't get everything in by March 1st, your life is over. That's not the case. There is a little bit of flexibility in the deadlines. And in fact, we will continue to accept applications all the way up to May 1st. So if you're just starting to get organized and you think it's going to be really tight, it's fine. Relax. Try to get to the March 1st deadline, because the longer the application cycle goes, the more we're going to be committing merit scholarships. And so it's less likely that there would be anything left in the budget for, the longer you wait. But aside from that, there is time and we're here to help.
Yep.
Thank you.
And thank you, Cherry and Carrie and Alexander, for showing up, and also our faculty members for doing the wonderful demonstration of the class. And thank you all for attend our webinar today.
And thank you, Melody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.